Hi, I'm Christine Griffin. I'm the Executive Director of the Disability Law Center. Welcome to our event honoring and celebrating the work of Frederick Wiseman, especially on the 50th anniversary of Titicut Follies. Now, we know it's risky making a film for a filmmaker, but what follows is a small sampling of testimony from legal advocates that we hope conveys to you how important Titicut Follies was and is to our work. We have all been to Bridgewater over the years, and we have a deep appreciation for the conditions that you highlighted and the change that you set in motion, not only at Bridgewater, but at other facilities in Massachusetts, as well as throughout the country. That change continues to this very day. Thank you, Fred Wiseman.
Hi, I'm Larry Goldberg, and I'm the Senior Director of Accessible Media at Yahoo. And before that, I was working for public broadcasting in Boston for almost 30 years. Throughout my whole career, from my film studies through my work in public broadcasting and my work today on making media accessible to people with disabilities, I've been inspired by the work of Fred Wiseman and how he understands how media can communicate and serve people with disabilities. Thank you, Fred. You've been my hero. I wish I could be there with you today to thank you in person. Keep up the great work.
I'm Phil Kassel. I'm the Director at Mental Health Legal Advisors Committee. We provide legal and policy advocacy throughout the Commonwealth to persons with mental health concerns. I saw Fred Wiseman's film many years ago, and of course I was appalled. Since then, I've had a lot of dealings with institutions like Bridgewater State Hospital, and I've come to believe that what lies at the root of all the evils we find there is what happens to the persons in charge. They stop thinking of those confines as human. And when I saw Titicut Follies again recently, that point certainly came across very strongly. However, the thing that moved me most was how Fred's camera captured the humanity of the people who were confined there, and for being moved particularly. Thank you, Fred.
Greetings from Key West. I first saw Frederick Wiseman's Titicut Follies in the early 1970s at the Pleasant Street Theater in Northampton, Massachusetts with my wife Cynthia. It had a profound impact on us then. This is Bob Fleischner from the Center for Public Representation. So thank you to Frederick Wiseman.
My name is Jim Pajon, and I am the Litigation Director at Prisoners Legal Services. I saw Titicut Follies way back in the 1970s when it wasn't available to the general public, and I had to sneak into a medical school classroom in order to see it. There were two things that struck me about the film at that point, and which I still remember. And the first is that how torture and terrible inhumanity were taking place right under my own nose in a town less than an hour from where I lived, in a so-called hospital that was surrounded by cow pastures and cornfields, and everything looked wonderful. And the second and even more disturbing feature was that the people who worked in this kind of nightmarish institution didn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with it. And their casual inhumanity and complacency was horrifying to me. And so the enduring lesson for me from Titicut Follies is that I don't want to ever learn to live with inhumanity, to become complacent, or to accept it. I want to always be someone who will speak out, and even if I can't be a Fred Wiseman, to do what I can to try to make lives better. Thank you, Fred.
I'm Rick Glassman. In the early 1980s, I was a law student at Northeastern, and I took a class called Psychiatry in the Law. It was a class with both law students and also psychiatry students, and together we were allowed to see the film Titicut Follies. At that time, you couldn't just see the film, you had to be part of some kind of educational setting because there were confidentiality restrictions that attached to the film. Anyway, we were appalled, so disturbed by what we saw, and that was only reinforced by then going to Bridgewater State Hospital and seeing the patients there and seeing the quality of care that people experienced at that time. I think things have come full circle for me because now, 30 years later, I'm the Director of Advocacy at the Disability Law Center. And with my colleagues, we've been going to Bridgewater 3 days a week for 2.5 years now, listening to patients, trying to identify problems, trying to bring about some real reforms there. And I think we are all poised to see that happen because right now we are working closely with other advocates, other organizations, other attorneys, state officials, the new mental health vendor, and clinicians at Bridgewater trying to bring forth substantial reform, I think a new chapter for this facility. A lot of what we do at the Disability Law Center as the protection and advocacy system is to shine a light on dark corners of institutions. Those are places where bad things happen because they haven't been illuminated, they're outside of public view. And when I think about Fred Wiseman's career, a lot of it has been trying to do something very similar, trying to illuminate for the general public what would otherwise be unseen. And so I want to say thank you to Fred Wiseman for helping us with that teaching, with that lesson, and for that inspiration. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Schwartz, and I'm the legal director of the Center for Public Representation. I first watched Titicut Follies as a law student in 1969 at the Harvard Law School in a course called Law and Psychiatry. When I saw the film, I was not just moved, I was devastated. When I left the classroom that day, I realized that part of my law school training and ultimately my legal career would be about people with disabilities. Several years later, I opened the first office at the Northampton State Hospital to provide legal advocacy to inmates at that facility. 20 years later, that state hospital closed. And over the course of the next 10 or 15 years, the center and people I worked with successfully closed institutions around the country. For the work that we were doing, we owe a profound gratitude to Frederick Wiseman for his work. Thank you.